All right, welcome everybody to the virtual summit here. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to you guys the CEO and founder of Ready Start Startup, Susan Jones. She's very passionate about startups, particularly the potential for businesses to empower and change people and communities. How you doing today, Susan?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Adam, for having me on the summit. I'm so excited to be here.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so over to me, I guess.
Yeah, we've been trying to make this happen, so I'm very excited. For everybody to hear what you got for us. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. So I thought I might just give a little bit of a introduction to what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and who I am, and then I've got something to share today, which I think is going to be really helpful to people to just be able to find what the key that they need to focus on to move their business to the next stage. And sometimes I know when you're starting out, it feels like, oh my goodness, so much to learn. How do I know what to do next? And what I want to tell you is really there's only one thing that you need to focus on, and I want to share that with you today.
Awesome.
So I have been building businesses since 1997. Which makes me feel really old, actually. But the real story of how I got to where I am today starts in 2003. And I was sitting in our lounge room of the little house we were renting on the couch. My husband was next to me. And my good friend Hunter was sitting on the couch across from us. And we were stressed out of our brains. We were totally just in this situation. We had unplugged our phone from the wall to stop the phone calls. We were kind of in total shock and just trying to figure out, oh my goodness, what are we going to do next? Because we had bought a business 2 days before, and we had just realized that we'd borrowed money from family to get into this. We'd put our own money on the line, and we just realized that we had totally been scammed.
Ooh.
And so, a friend was sitting across from us, and what I remember sticks in my mind. He said to me, 2 days ago, I was so jealous of you guys because you'd found this great business opportunity. And now I am so glad I'm not you. And I've got to say, he was amazing at supporting us. So it's really great to have good friends, that have your back when you go through those things. So how we got there is I tried a number of businesses and investment opportunities. Some had done really well. The first business I started did really well. I had lots of sales coming in the door. But I knew nothing about business at that point, so I didn't know how to grow that. Tried all number of other things, like people do when they're starting out. It's like every business opportunity sounds amazing, and you think, oh, maybe this is the thing that's going to work for me. And we, didn't at that point. We just try to hold it stuff. We thought, if we try stuff, we're going to find something that works. And what actually did work for us was buying and renovating real estate. And we'd done pretty well with that. We were really lucky to be on a growth trend in where we live. Real estate was in a big kind of upward trend. And we wanted to keep doing it, but we couldn't afford to take on any more mortgages. So we were looking for, this thing that was going to give us extra income so we could keep investing in real estate, which was creating a lot of capital growth for us. But the other thing that was really going on for me was I really wanted to be in business because I believed that was the best way to get the flexibility that I needed to be a mum and to do the work that I wanted to do and to work the way I wanted to work and to get paid well for it.
Exactly.
So we bought, and look, who doesn't want to create a life that works for them? I think, that's something we all want. So we bought this business that we thought was going to be profitable. We thought it was a good match for our skills and that we could build it up and grow it. And 2 days after signing the papers, we discovered that the guy that had sold it to us was actually a con man, that he'd been jailed in Australia before for fraud. He had forged my husband's signature on some of the papers. He had fabricated documents and evidence that he'd given to us when we were doing our due diligence on the business. And not only us, he'd actually we'd sort of bought a franchisor business. So there were all these people that were franchisees in the business, and they had also been scammed too. And this was like his last ditch effort to get money out of the business. He sold off the whole thing. So all these people were really angry, and they were like, oh, new business owners, and they were ringing us to try and get their money back. And we were like, oh, we have no idea what's going on. We're going to take the phone out of the wall. And we ended up, it's a long story, but I'll make it short. We ended up going to our lawyers, getting their bank accounts frozen, because we could see they were, my friend Hunter realized they were pulling out the money from the bank account that we'd paid for the business. We're like, my goodness, how are we going to get some of this back? We went and started a lawsuit to freeze their bank account, which is really probably a bad idea. It led to 8 months of stress, court appearances. Just, it was the worst. We had a 2-year-old at the time, and it was just such a stressful time. So what I really realized out of that was I really didn't know how to do due diligence on the opportunity in front of me. And that meant that we really were at the mercy of whoever was selling us a business opportunity. And I also realized I hadn't been tough enough. I hadn't pushed through enough to get the answers that we really needed, and that I really needed to not be so worried about what people thought of me, in a way, worried about pushing for what I needed. And so I decided that I need to get really, really good at assessing business opportunities, so this could never happen to us again. So from there, this was 2003. So there was really very little about starting up around at the moment. There was nothing on the internet about it. It was really hard to find what you need to do at that really early stage of business. So I actually went to university and I studied a Master's of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and I did everything I could to learn and work in startups, because part of the decision I'd made is I didn't want to buy a business again. I wanted to start my own thing from scratch. And in that process, I saw, I learned heaps, working with different startups, co-founding startups, winning business plan competitions, just heaps of everything that I could do to learn. I did it.
So you just went all in?
Sorry?
You just went all in?
I went all in, absolutely. I'm kind of a bit like that. Once I find something, I'm like, well, let's go for that and learn everything I can. And I took a lot of action as well. So I started different things. I partnered up with different people. And in that whole process, I saw a lot of friends who were starting businesses but not being successful. And when I looked at what they were actually doing, I realized it was because usually they had a lack of knowledge. Excuse me. Usually they were really good technically at whatever it was that the business did, but they didn't understand business, and their business skills and strategies. And they'd usually, because of a lack of knowledge, just made a bad decision in terms of how their strategy in the business model often. And if they'd known a bit more and just tweaked that, they probably would have been successful. So they might have started in the wrong location, or priced their products wrong, or not marketed effectively, and I knew that they were things that could be fixed. And I was seeing these people starting businesses and then failing or not having the success they wanted to, and then just believing that entrepreneurship was not for them. And I knew it wasn't them, it was actually a lack of knowledge. And the other thing that I realized was that startups failed because they ran out of money. So like if these people had had more money, then they could have changed and pivoted and ended up with a successful business, but they didn't, right? So the money ran out and they had to close the doors and go back to a job, which is just so heartbreaking. And as I kind of kept working in this field, I realized, we have this, I have this real belief that entrepreneurship gives opportunity to everyone. And we think it's a level playing field, but it's actually not. In that, if you look at Uber or Airbnb, everyone kind of thinks, I want to build the next startup like that. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the people that have built these billion-dollar valuation unicorn companies, the vast majority of them either had a successful $50 million exit or they had trust fund money behind them. Mm-hmm. So they actually had the money to make the mistakes, get up, learn, pivot, all this startup jargon that we talk about. The only reason they could do it though is because they have money behind them. And I'm like, well, for someone like me, I don't have a trust fund behind me, which I did.
Guilty. I don't either.
Like, who doesn't want one of those? But so that was a real problem for startup entrepreneurs, that they just didn't have the money to buy themselves the time to get the knowledge that they needed. And so for me, I was kind of jumping from opportunity to opportunity. I was trying lots of different things. People were coming to me, kind of offering me co-founder opportunities in different startups, and some of them I took. Like one of them was an amazing business guys with really deep industry expertise who are building a marketplace platform in an industry that really needed it. And I worked with them on their strategy and their financial model. They were going to try and get investment funding. I think they'd already had like 600,000, but they actually needed about another $1 million to launch the business. And that company folded, not because it wasn't a good idea, not because the people didn't have the right expertise, but they ran out of money and they just could not keep going. So I was in this kind of stage of trying lots of startup ideas, taking opportunities that came to me. And I realized at that point that I really needed just to commit to one opportunity. And if I was going to commit to one thing, it should be something that I was really passionate about and was a really good fit for my skills and experience. So I had started blogging in 2009 about startups and just sharing what I knew and what I was learning, because there was really nothing online at that time. And I'd had people coming to me for help, and I thought, I just feel like I have to do this. I have to make this business work so I can help entrepreneurs that have a great idea and deserve to have an opportunity to see it become a reality. And so I was looking for ways to accelerate entrepreneurs while reducing the risk for them. And I was there were a couple of good things happening in the space at the time. One was accelerator programs, where you go for 3 months, they might give you some money to live on, and they give you some training and mentoring. And then there's usually a pitch day at the end where you, pitch, and you might get additional investment in your startup. And I kind of thought that was a really interesting model. The accelerators pretty much always take equity, so they'll take part of your company to give you that service. But what the problem with that model is, I think, is that it's it's not really good for the individual entrepreneur. So the way the whole investment game works is not set up for us individual entrepreneurs, because what the investor is thinking is, I will invest in 10 businesses. One's going to be an amazing success, and that's where I'm going to make my money. 4 are going to be so-so, and 5 will fail. But that's okay, because I'm going to make my money from this one that succeeds. Which, you know, it kind of makes sense from an investment point of view. But for me, as an individual founder, I kind of think that's not good enough, because if my business succeeds, that's life-changing. But if it fails, my goodness, that's devastating. I'd already experienced that. I didn't want to take that risk again, right?
To lose.
Who wants to lose? None of us. And who can afford to lose? You know, we put so much of our time and money and effort into building our businesses. What I really wanted to do was to find a way to help to make it, to give every individual entrepreneur the chance of being as successful as they could be. So I came up with this idea for an accelerator with a difference. It wouldn't take equity, that would give entrepreneurs training and mentoring and connections, but not take equity. And because I really felt that was, if you take equity, then you need to on-sell the business to someone else that's going to invest in them, like a VC fund, to make your money back. So I wasn't really big on that model. But the problem that I faced was the problem everyone faces, is I didn't have the capital to build this. I knew exactly how it needed to go. I knew how we would deliver it. I knew the content that needed to be in there, but I just didn't have the space to sit down and bring that all together. Until a university in Melbourne approached me, and they were starting an accelerator, and they said, could you come and coach all our participants? And I'm like, fantastic. That's amazing. I'm going to get to do what I wanted to do, and I'm going to be paid for it. Like, this is the chance that I needed. And so we were 1 week away from launching a pilot project with them just to test how this would go. There was like 30 startups I was going to be coaching. It was going to be like 3 days a week. They'd asked me to map, block out the next 2 months to really focus on this. I'm like, great, you pay me, no problem. And like 1 week before we started, I was sitting in a coffee shop doing some work, checked my emails, and my heart just stopped, because there in front of me was an email from a guy who was kind of running the program, who I kind of suspected was feeling a bit threatened by me anyway. And the email was, we don't need you.
Oh. And
my heart just stopped. I'm like, how am I going to provide for my family? So put the accelerator program kind of to the side for a while. Worked on some other things, and just recently I was doing some coaching with a guy called Stephen Larson. Some of you might have come across him. Very intense, very passionate, amazing. Drop some amazing gems. Like, I can't. He's just, like, if you haven't found him, go and look for him. Like, what he's got to tell you about business is just amazing. But he said one thing that really struck me, and what he said was, don't build the business before you build the revenue. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is so obvious, right? But also so revolutionary. So don't build the business before you build the revenue. And I thought, of course, like, the best way for entrepreneurs to de-risk their ventures is to get money in the door as soon as possible. So I knew from my work with startups, and I've been lecturing in entrepreneurship for the last 10 years on the side. And I knew from that, like, there's 4 different stages of startups. But what people don't talk about really is that we actually have to focus on revenue at each stage. But because if we're not making revenue, we don't have a business, right? We just have a hobby.
Exactly.
I think business is just, you know, it is just about making money. Yes, it's about changing the world and living our dreams and all of that. But if we're not making money, we don't have a business. And the thing is, like, our runway is really short. So if there's no cash coming in the door, we've got a really limited time to learn what we need to learn and make that business successful. But if there's money coming in, you can actually take that journey. And so my focus now is totally about how do we get cash in the door really quickly, or grow that cash. And I think to understand that, it's really important to understand what stage of the startup journey you are in, and you need to focus on what you have to do at that stage to bring revenue in the door. And there's actually some really specific things you need to focus on at each stage, and it's different for each stage. So, you know, like, I was talking to someone just this week. She's got a business. She's found a product. Every time she runs Facebook ads, she sells it. She brings the money in the door, but she hasn't got consistent revenue. So what she has to focus on at that stage of her business is a different thing than the person who is maybe looking for their first product. Sorry, that took us a while. That's my story and about, you know, why I'm here and doing what I'm doing. But I thought I might share a little bit about what those 4 stages are and what you need to be doing to bring revenue in the door, if you think that's helpful.
Yeah, and I think that's excellent, because that is definitely, I know when I first got into this was where we all struggle, is because you're, as much as you're doing this because you love it, you're doing it because you need some income coming in as well, and you're trying to figure that out along the way. So I'm definitely interested in hearing all about it.
All right, awesome. And I've got to say, I reckon if you don't have cash coming in the door at this point, like 100% of your time should be focused on getting that cash in the door. But like, I think the focus is really important, and people do tend to, people can tend to kind of jump around to different things. So
Yes.
I don't want you to do that, because that's not focus. So anyway, let's get into this, and then how long have we got? We've got a few minutes still.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
All right. So
I wouldn't miss this for anything. So let's go for it.
Okay. So let me outline these 4 stages,
Okay.
and then maybe actually just to talk about what the focus should be in each stage. And yeah, let's go from there. So broadly, there's 4 stages in starting up. So the first one is idea development. So this is the whole goal here is finding a problem that you're excited to solve, and maybe 2 or 3 ways to solve that, and then testing that to some extent. So validating that you actually have a problem that people care about and will pay for a solution for, and that the solution that you've got is one they want. So, you know, and what we're actually looking for is finding a fit between the problem that you've identified and the solution that you've created. So you're really wanting to make sure, do I have a problem to solve, and do I have a solution people want to buy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and you know, that's the very first step, and often we go through that step several times. So we might, you know, come up with an idea. Does it solve a real problem? Kind of talk to people in the market, maybe, that are, you know, do there's some very easy things that we can do to test that. Like, this is not the stage where you write a whole business plan. This is where you are looking at, you know, does anyone want to buy this? Is there actually a market for this out there? And there's really easy ways to do this. This shouldn't take a lot of time. Sometimes we go through that in the entrepreneurial journey. We go through that several times. Like, you know, early in my entrepreneurial career, I said I tried lots of different things. But I think the real key here is picking something, a problem that you care about, that is also a good match for the skills and experience that you have, because then you're actually shortcutting your learning curve. So if you know, sometimes I see people online who are looking to get into entrepreneurship and they are just like, I could do this, I could do that, I could that, or that person's making money over there, or you know, you see, yeah, look, we've all done that. Or you know, you see someone post some results like, yeah, I just launched this thing and I made $50,000, and you can bet your bottom dollar that someone in the thread there will go, what is it that you're selling?
Yeah.
Actually, it really doesn't matter what they're selling, because they've got advantages and connections and skills to be able to do that successfully that you probably don't have. So getting a fit between your skills and the problem that you've identified and the solution that you're delivering is really, people should be focusing on finding, you know, the sweet spot in those three things in that stage. All right, I was going to give you a quick overview and then go in depth, but it looks like I'm doing it the other way. So the second stage is product development. So here you are, the real focus here is finding an offer that customers want to buy. And the way to do that is to work out what problem you're selling, work out your message and offer, and then work out how to sell it. So the real key activities are what we call rapid prototyping. So really quickly getting some kind of product together and then trying to sell it. And then as you're doing that, you're actually building an audience that's interested in what you're offering as well. And the key pitfall that people fall into here is spending too much time on building their product. So, you know, because we're entrepreneurs and we're visionary and we're creative, when we work out our solution, we work out something huge, you know, that's going to change the world, and it's got all these bits, and I could do this and this, and I could build it here, and I could leverage this. And the problem is we can't do all that at the beginning, and we certainly can't do all that with revenue. And then people go, oh, I need an investor so I can do all of this.
Yeah.
So the harsh reality here is it's like 0.07% of businesses actually get investment funding outside family and friends. So
interesting.
Like why go there? Why not? I mean, I just think, why would I play that game when my likelihood of success is so low? Like, and we just need another strategy. And the strategy is scaling down what you want to do, finding a product that market will buy, and then selling that. So starting maybe, you know, this much of this huge vision that we have. And the advantage of doing that is you get the product out the door quickly, you are building an audience in the same space, and you are working out what it takes to sell these people, and you're building all your skills in doing these things, if that makes sense. So an example, so I'm just thinking of an example that I can give you without breaking confidentiality with some of the people I've worked with.
I understand.
So I was working with someone a couple of months ago. He had this idea for okay, I can't give you the details of the product because I know everyone wants to know what it is, but that would not be, you know, that would not be ethical of me. So he was working on an idea for a online platform that produced that people could use, that would produce a physical product at the end of it. And he had fallen into this pitfall. So he'd spent $15,000 creating this software with someone, hiring someone overseas to do it. He got to the stage where he thought, I don't want to spend any more money on this. I need to market it. And he'd come to me to help him with that. And I was really saying to him, and he also applied to an accelerator program. And I was saying to him, you know, the accelerator program is saying, oh, this is a great idea. It's a great tech startup. You know, we're going to try and find you investors. And I'm saying to him, like, just don't spend your time and energy on that. Sell something. We could actually sell the physical prototype you first created in the beginning. And I think if he'd done that as a first strategy, so instead of creating all the software, if he just sold the physical prototype to people, he would know, 1, do people actually want to buy this? 2, who are my audience? 3, how much are they going to pay for this? And then he would have had money coming in the door to fund the software build. So it's like...
So just to go a little into it. So yeah, what you're saying is he, instead of waiting to create the actual physical thing, he could have sold the idea before he even built it?
Actually, no. So you can do that, but not if your product's going to take a long time to build. So his software build, I don't know, he's been doing that for a year or something. So you can't sell something to someone and then make them wait a year for the, you know, for you to develop the software. But he could have actually done this in a printed form.
Okay, I get that.
Okay, so it's not his big grand vision, but it's like a couple of steps back from that, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So here's another example, right? Which I can tell you about because this is my idea. So I've realized, applying this to my own thinking, to my own business, instead of selling, you know, creating this whole big accelerator, which is still my ultimate goal, I could just start with a membership group, which would achieve like at least 70% of what I wanted to do. And I could start selling that tomorrow.
Okay.
So, you know, it's like, okay, have the grand vision, but find a place where there's something that you can actually sell. And I think for like a 90% of businesses, unless they like have an enterprise solution or, you know, it involves a lot of hardware, you can find a way to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so probably again gone more into depth on that than I intended to, but that's good as long as it's helpful.
We'll take all the nuggets. We'll take them.
Okay, cool. So first step is idea development. Second step is product development. Your third stage of starting up is customer development. So the real focus here is consistent sales. So in the product development stage, you've found what people want to buy, you've found the messaging that works, people are giving you money, you found like at least one way to market whatever your thing is, but it may not be consistent. So this customer development stage is about, the goal is consistent sales, finding out where your customers are and how to get more of them. And this is where you're going to increase your marketing knowledge. You're going to learn stuff like lead gen and conversion, funnel optimization. You're going to do experiments to test other marketing channels, you know, find out, or other target markets as well. You can build your audience, and of course be totally focused on fulfillment and customer service. And in this stage, you'll probably be improving your product a bit, but the main thing is scaling your sales, if that makes sense. You've got something that's selling. So you want to build that so you've got a consistent income stream that you can predict. And then you can take that income stream and start working towards this bigger vision of what it is that you want to build. And the sales are funding the vision, if you like. So you're funding yourself. You don't need an investor. And then the fourth stage of starting up is business model development. So like the traditional thing at the moment is, in the startup world, is you come up with an idea and then you do your business model and business model canvas. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it, because you probably don't need to know that yet. But the problem with there is, like, if you do your business model development really early before you've got in your any sales, everything that you plan is actually fictional.
Yes.
Because like it's not based in reality. Basically, you don't know what customers are going to buy. You don't know how much, you know, I mean, you can sketch some ideas out around this, but you shouldn't spend a lot of time developing this until you've got sales. But once you get to this fourth stage of business model development, the goal here is working on the business to prepare it either to scale or to sell. Or this point here is a point where you can start thinking about investment if you want to go down that route. Because if you wait until, well, number one, you're more likely to get investment. And number two, you will have to give away less of your company if you've already got revenue coming in. And you can use every dollar, like you know how to make sales, you know how to scale that, and every dollar investment you can just put into growth. So you would take investment on to grow you quicker, or you just use your own revenue to grow and keep 100% of your company. So the goal in the business model development stage is working on the business to prepare it to scale. And founders need to change their focus from the product sales details to looking more at the business as a whole. So you're starting to remove yourself from the day-to-day operations, and you're systematizing and streamlining all the aspects of the business you can so you can scale it. So putting in procedures, putting in systems, bending down your business model, maybe adding in more products and services. But you start to look at every part of your business, systematize that, do a business plan, build your team, that kind of stuff. So that's
I loved it. One thing that I really like that you were going over, and definitely how you're building it all on your own personal revenue, is it something that you're hearing so much now from guys who are really getting the job done in the game right now, is that it's giving you that foundation of knowing who your customer base is along the way, instead of creating it all the way and then like, I really love this, I hope people love this.
Absolutely. And, you know, I made that mistake early on. So when I started Ready Set Startup and I started blogging, so here's an example of what not to do, right? I focused on the customer very first, I launched a 6-week face-to-face course about how to launch a business. And I realized I was doing it in my hometown of Melbourne. I realized this is not really very scalable. I need to take it online. So I started, instead of selling that course online, and like this was 2009, man, if I'd done that, I would be like way ahead of the game. You know, like I'd be an internet superstar. But I started blogging, and I had a coach, like a guy who's created some really successful blogs. He was coaching me, and he was saying, you know, once you get to 1,000 subscribers, the money will start coming in. And so I'm like, okay, I'm blogging, I'm doing social media. You know, I grew my Twitter following to 37,000 followers. You know, it's still this huge number of people that are following me. But like the money didn't come in. And now I realize it was because I was focusing on customer development and I'd skipped the product development stage. Like, I mean, it seems so obvious now, but we all can fall into that so easily if we're not clear about where we are and what we should be focusing on. And like that was the worst advice. He was giving me good advice for what his expertise was.
Exactly.
And, you know, he's helped heaps of people. He's really good at what he does. But I was just focusing on the wrong thing at the wrong time for my business. So I think, you know, that the other thing about doing things in the right order is it allows you to build your skills as you go. You can start out with, you know, not knowing too much, but that's okay because you know enough to come up with an idea. Then you know enough to start selling it, and you're building your skills and your understanding of the market and what they need along the way. Whereas you've kind of jumped to, I'm going to try and pitch investors or whatever, you you're not going to get investment anyway because it's patently obvious you don't have the skills you need. It's probably being a bit cruel. But, we actually have to give ourselves the time to go through this journey, right? And we're all on a journey. We're all learning. Even people that are really successful, they've been through this path. They weren't born with the skills and the knowledge that they've got.
And that's usually the side that we don't see, because you always see the opposite side, and we think that everybody's an overnight success when most people are not. Most people are not an overnight success. You just didn't know who they were before they blew up.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing as well is that most people, even when they're really successful, still feel like a bit of an imposter, and they still feel like they don't know what they're doing. And the thing about entrepreneurship is, like, we are constant, like, if you do a normal job, you're there, and after 3 months, you know what you're doing, and you're doing the same things kind of over and over, and you can feel really competent at that because you've done it, and you know. Yeah. When we're entrepreneurs, like, every day we're doing something new that we don't know, and so we actually often feel like, oh my goodness, I'm hopeless, I can't do this. I mean, I had this meltdown yesterday with my husband. I was like, I'm working on something new. It's requiring me to learn new skills, and I'm like, I can't do this. I don't think I've got what it takes, and and then I just kind of have to go, yeah, because I'm learning, right? And I think because this journey is like, we're learning so much all the time, we've got to be really kind to ourselves that, as where was I yesterday? Where was I last month? Have I progressed? And if I have, yay me, because I'm doing great. And everyone goes through that journey. And even, people that we would look at and go, oh, they're so successful, like, they're still facing that in taking their business to the next level. Yeah. So kind of just be kind to yourself.
Awesome. And Susan, is there any way that we could get a hold of that list that you just gave to us?
Yes, there is. The best thing, I think, if you want to know more about this, is I have developed a tool for people that are either preparing to launch or, getting the pieces in place, or maybe you've just launched. I've got a tool that you can use to get a free assessment of your startup.
Awesome.
So I'd love to offer that to everyone. You don't have to tell me what your idea is, don't worry. And it's really easy to do, but what it will give you is an idea of where you're doing well and where the gaps are, maybe some things you haven't thought about, and how you can set yourself up for success. So if you're interested in that, the place to find that is scoreyourstartup.com. So awesome. Scoreyourstartup.com. Go there, you can do that for free, and I'll send you an individual report in your email that gives you a rundown of your whole startup, where you're doing well, and maybe where some of the gaps are that you might want to think about.
All right. That's awesome. Susan, I appreciate you giving us your time. Thank you for giving me a slot to meet up with you. For everybody listening, we appreciate you coming to the virtual summit. The link will be below here. If you get an opportunity to connect with Susan, she's more than knowledgeable to be able to help you go to the next level. Please reach out to her. Thank you, Susan, for giving us the time. This has been great.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.